7:30 p.m. complex. Under section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, and it's permitted time and place of this regular meeting is provided by prominent schedule for the and by sending to the copy of the schedule, the packet, public, and sign, and filming, and contrast pages. Copy was also
Ms. Clayton? Mr. Cohen? Ms. Colson? Mr. Floyd?
Here.
Mr. Callahan?
Here.
Ms. Rockstrom?
Here.
Chairman Royce?
Here.
Ms. Suri? Mr. Tenenbaum? Thank you.
I think that we can leave the busy work till the end because we only are going to hear one case this evening. Would you care to say something about 428 Mount Lucas so that we can accept you and postpone you? You can come in that microphone or sit in this seat.
Yes, Richard Schatzman, attorney. On the Rogers case, we're submitting, we have had a geological survey done. We're submitting new plans with, I'm told by the architect, with a house conforming with the setbacks, so the variances we'd be looking for were insufficient lot width, insufficient lot frontage, and insufficient lot area. And so the house will be different, it'll be categorically different. If you recall, we had a couple other variances, so we're down to the minimum variances, and so we would like to have the case continue December 14th. And I will send, I've given Mr. Bridger extension of time for you to act under the MLUL, and we will send out the courtesy regular mail notices.
Good. So then we will carry this until the December the 14th meeting,
Yes, sir.
and that's fine.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So that out of the way, I think what we should do is to go to the 338 Nassau Street case. That's block 34.01, lot 32 in the RO zone, and it carries the number Z1616402U. And Mr. Tarr is going to talk about that. I don't think there's any need for Mr. Bridger to tell us anything before Mr. Tarr retakes the reins. Sir, it is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With me on my right is Jim Kamalik, the engineer and planner. On my left is Bill King, the contract purchaser. I represent the estate of Michael Graves, which is anxious to sell the building to Mr. King's group. You will remember that we talked about a rather complicated series of zoning board approvals, which began in 1990 with the change from a purely residential use to allow for some office use, and then a series of applications requesting a very minor area to be used for retail sales, and then ultimately a request that the entire building be allowed to be used for office use. And the board at that time conditioned that approval with, among other things, the recordation of a deed which would say that upon the termination of the use by the Graves Group, that the two apartments be restored, put back, and that after he stopped the retail use, that would no longer be permitted for anyone. You'll remember that Mr. King has no interest in the retail use, happy to terminate it. The Graves organization is still in the building, and we had that issue about when the property might be sold as distinguished from when the leases might end. But the primary issue that we got a very clear picture from the board members were that you were not interested in relieving the buyer of the obligation to put back the 1,200 feet of apartments, the two apartments that were there 16 years ago. And so we accept that and intend to withdraw this application. But before we do, Mr. King has asked if he could just speak with you for a moment about his idea, recognizing that you have no obligation to comment. If you did comment, it wouldn't be binding in any way, but he just wanted to lay out his thinking. He had an idea in the past few weeks, and we're going to withdraw the application in 5 minutes, but if it's acceptable to the chair to allow Mr. King to address the board.
I think we will, since we are here, we might as well, and since he's here, we might as well have an
Yes.
exchange of thoughts.
He was under oath last time. He's still under oath unless you'd like to re-swear.
Mr. King, if you'd raise your hand, you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you may recall from the last time we were here, I had said that I expressed an interest in this building to Michael about 5 or 6 years ago. And at that time, my architects had done a layout, and the building was perfect for our size. It's about 3,000 square feet, and that's about our use. And that's why the building was appealing to us. When I heard your interest in having the 1,200 square feet converted back to residential, I asked my architect to look at what could be done to expand the building in keeping with the design of the building, more or less, by utilizing the attic area, which has to have a fix in the roof anyway. The roof has a belly in it. And by increasing the height still within your height limitation, and utilizing that third floor, and also reconstructing the rear portion of the building into a 3-story height, it would yield about 4,300 square feet, which is within the permittable floor area ratio under your ordinance. I also asked the engineer to plot a 3-dimensional diagram which would show the height in the vertical and the setbacks in the horizontals. And I asked my architect to show me what the total yield would be and balance that with parking. And he figured out that we could put slightly more than the 43. We could put about 45. In fact, if the parking could be modified, we could put almost 6,000 square feet on the site. We have no intention to put 6,000 feet on the site, but what I would like to do is I would like to add the apartments to the footage that I need for the office. And again, the footage that I need for the office is about 3,000 square feet, give or take. My architect also told me we may have to put an internal stair and some other things. So when we get to the usable portion, the total area might be somewhere around 44, but still within the allowable area. It still meets, according to his layout, it meets the parking requirements that are necessary under your ordinances. And it fits within the envelope for setbacks and height and all that sort of thing. But before I go down the road to instruct him to prepare documentation and go through the process, which I understand involves the Historic Review Committee, is that correct? And possibly, is there another board?
No, they would come back here or
Okay.
the planning board.
And then come back here. I was wondering if that would meet your intent at the end of the day. So I could decide whether or not it makes sense for us to pursue purchasing the property.
It's not really the board's intent. The board is interpreting an intent that was agreed on with another board, on which I actually sat. And it would seem to me, very naively, without having pondered it deeply, as long as the building that you're proposing contains the equivalent of the 2 apartments that were turned into office space, and as long as any modifications you make to the building don't offend the historic requirements on that area and meet all the setbacks and envelopes, do you need to come to the board? You probably will.
To remove the condition or modify the condition in the title,
So what condition are you asking to modify?
when we came here last month, it was because in 2007 a deed was filed, and the
Yeah.
relevant parts read this way: when and if the subject property is sold by Graves
Yeah.
to another person, the residential units will be restored as two
You
separate...
said now that that's what you can do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's assumed sort of...
You replace them, not restore them.
Right, right. In concept, in spirit, they're 1,200 square feet, you'd have 1,200 square feet of units, but on the back of the building rather than within the
So
space.
basically, in a sense, putting aside the deed condition, you're doing this as of right. So, is that right?
Yes, yes.
So basically, all you be coming to us for is just to allow this to be modified, this other approval,
Yes,
but you're meeting you're meeting the intention of the master plan, and from my standpoint, I mean, again, I can only speak for myself, I don't see it as a problem. I mean, the intent, at least my concern, quite frankly, last time, was removing the apartments because it's a master plan issue and it's not for us to decide.
Well, my comment, it's not for us to say what's as of right. We would look there. So I'm telling you now, whatever you're going to propose, you submit your plan, they're the people that tell us if it's as of right. And if you're not submitting a plan now, I don't think we should tell you it's as of right, and we would approve it.
Right.
I just think we don't go out on that limb for a case we're not hearing.
I have to agree with what Mr. Floyd just said. The other question, Mr. Tar, is wouldn't you still need a use variance for the retail? You want that to continue?
No, I don't want retail.
No, but your tenant will.
We have that problem. We don't know yet. And Mr. King has not felt comfortable talking to the Graves people. They want to talk to him, and he's going to talk to them about how long they want to stay. And it's going to take many months to get this process done, and perhaps they could dovetail so that they leave and end the retail use, and he proposes 2 apartments of 1,200 feet, and the relevant board approves them. We will come back and ask that this deed condition be clarified so that the record in the future isn't clouded as to whether it was done or not done and so forth. But other than that, if it's the planning board that has jurisdiction, so be it. We just don't know yet.
Yeah, when I made the comment that I did, I agree with Michael. I mean, I'm assuming based on what you said that it was an as-of right, but that would be for Derek to determine once he's got a plan.
We don't know yet. But he's going to spend many months and thousands of dollars to do plans. It was really this conceptual issue. If they're stuck on the back of the building, is that obnoxious? And I think we've heard enough.
Yeah, I've heard enough.
We thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we formally withdraw.
So you're withdrawing this case, and then you'll deal with Mr. Bridger, and he will decide whether or not we need to hear anything about this property at all.
I assure you I'm going to come back in some months and ask you to clarify the deed restriction, but that may be all you have to do.
Yeah, I guess my thought on that, Mr. Tar, is that, again, if what you're proposing is, let's just make assumptions, it's as of right and meets the requirement, the condition that, the 2 residences be put in place, why couldn't you just put on record an affidavit stating as much, okay, without anything from the board? I'm not sure I see the board's role here.
Yeah. Well, the board caused it to be imposed. It's being modified in some way. The board, in my experience, would modify it. I'll ask the title people whether they'll be satisfied and grant title insurance around it.
Yeah.
But we just thought a cleaner way to do it would be when this circumstance does come before this board, or even if it came before the planning board, that somehow or another we reach over and make sure that the wording doesn't confuse.
No, I
or-
guess what I see is your client's compliance with the condition, right, isn't necessarily a modification by the board of that condition.
But the word is that they be restored, and if they're not restored, but rather replaced in a different
Sure, yeah.
style, that's the only issue.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Thank you all.
That's a point.
Let me just clarify also, you mentioned retail use in passing. That retail permission that Graves has is not a conventional retail permission.
Right.
And clearly, I think it would be assuming too much if it were indeed desirable to turn it to real retail with people popping in and out.
No, absolutely no desire or intention to
Yeah,
do
no,
that.
I hope that's true.
The conditions were extraordinary, if you remember, when they were imposed, that the people had to make appointments to come in and all sorts of...
Exactly.
So it was unique to Mr. Graves. It will end. The only problem we have is the sequencing. If Mr. King were to buy the building 6 months from now, and they were leaving a year from now, it would still be the need to, quote, continue the retail use after it had been sold to others in violation of this deed restriction. You see, we have to clarify the deed restriction. But we'll come back and do that.
Yeah,
We've
okay,
taken too much
well,
time.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we'll get down to our busy work, because we have to do some findings of fact and the minutes, and then, as we saw, the 428 Mount Lucas case is going to the 14th of December. So why don't we start with the minutes? Did you circulate them? I know I got mine by email. But the first set of minutes is for April the 27th of 2016. Are there any modifications or changes needed to those? If not, a motion to accept as sent or as presented, and a seconder to that motion. We have a motion and a seconder. We're all eligible to vote on that, so Claudia, maybe you can... No, you're not.
Mr. Cohen? Ms. Rockstrom? Chairman Royce?
Yes.
Thank you, it's approved.
Okay. And then the second set of minutes is that of the 25th of May. Again, the same procedure. I didn't find anything in them that I thought was inaccurate. It was just that the ink supply in my printer was running out and it's a little faded in places. We have a motion to approve as presented. A seconder for the motion? No excitement this evening, Mr. Floyd? Are you going to second it? Okay. So if you'd call the roll again, Claudia.
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Ms. Rockstrom? Chairman Royce?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have some resolutions. The first one is 15 Madison Street, which carries the case number Z1616387V. This was setback case. I seem to have that. I thought I got it with me. Ah, here we are. Oh, that's this one. Yeah, I've read it and I thought I've got it in this pile somewhere. So, are there any modifications there, or do we have a motion to accept as presented? So moved. We have a motion to accept. A seconder to the motion?
Second.
So our attorney will read the names of the people eligible to vote.
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Rockstrom? Chairman Royce?
Here. The next one is the 50 Cherry Hill Road, which has the case number Z1616367MS. That was the Unitarian Church case. Do I have a motion to accept as presented? And a seconder?
I make a motion to accept.
We have a motion to accept. Is there a second of that motion? We have a seconder, so could you call again the roll?
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Ms. Rockstrom? Chairman Royce?
Yes. And then the last one is 2 Cleveland Lane, Z1616-405V. That was a location of an emergency generator in the screened area of the front yard.
Make a motion to accept.
We have a motion to accept. Is there a seconder to that motion? We have a seconder. Would you call the roll for us, please, Mr.
Mr. Cohen? Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Rockstrom? Chairman Royce?
Yes. And if I look at the list I've got in front of me, that is the end of our business for this evening. Okay? We are adjourned. Thank you so much.
No, that's fine. Just keep the ones for 420 and Lucas. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Plan to be there. Great. What I mean, I hope this is
No, this is still Carrie. Yes, coming back. Yeah.
great. Thank you for
Sure,
doing that.
sure.